Hey guys, it's Jay Brackman, and you're listening to the first episode of the Georgia History Guy podcast. I'm excited about this opportunity to come to you. I'm excited about sharing stories of Georgia and just cool things that have happened here. Historic sites that are here, historic things that have happened in certain places, interesting cities, interesting people who've lived here or grew up here. Again, we're one of the 13 original colonies, and there's a lot of stories to tell. So I look forward over the next weeks, months, and years of sharing a lot of those stories. And if you have comments to share, please let me know. I'm going to be sharing these on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, so you're always welcome to comment there on anything that you hear. Sometimes I may be wrong. Sometimes I may say something that's wrong, but I'm really interested to share these and to get feedback from people on, if this matters. We're going to find out if it matters or not. The first story that I want to tackle, the first idea, I'm from Atlanta, and most of you know, if you live here in Atlanta, you know a lot more about it, or if you live in Georgia, but, Atlanta is the capital of Georgia. And it's in North Georgia. It's north of the central point in the state, or the geographic center of the state, which is Forsyth, Georgia. It's about an hour south of Atlanta. And Atlanta has grown. Of course, it's the capital of the state. It's hosted the Olympics. But Atlanta also was started and grew because it was a transportation hub, and it was a transportation hub for railroads. However, the story we're going to talk about today is based much more on the fact that an early part of Atlanta was founded along the Chattahoochee River. So the first permanent settlement in the Atlanta area has been known for a long time as Standing Peachtree. Standing Peachtree. And Standing Peachtree is a site. It is a site where Peachtree Creek meets the Chattahoochee River, basically in the West Buckhead area. So it's north of downtown and to the northwest of downtown, where the river comes inside the interstate. And this area in the 1780s was an area where Creek Indians were congregating. And they congregated there on the rivers. That's they fished a lot, obviously, and they used the river for navigation. The creek that ultimately became Peachtree Creek was another navigable creek that they used to get back and forth to some other settlements they had. But this area is on a bluff. It's an area you can still go near. You can't go exactly to it. It's behind some. The Atlanta Waterworks has that facility gated off where the site was, but it's still right there. There's a bluff right there. You can see it from the other side of the river. And in the 1780s, Indians were living there and were operating and were commanding that part of the river. There weren't a lot of white people in that area at the time. The center of Atlanta, Georgia population at the time was over in the eastern part of the state in Savannah and Augusta. So this area, in northwest Georgia was very remote. As land lotteries occurred in Georgia after 1800, and as treaties continued to be negotiated with Native Americans in Georgia, both Creeks, Cherokees, Seminoles, all this land, including the land moving towards Atlanta, eventually became open for white settlement. And the area near Atlanta became open for white settlement after the Treaty of Indian Springs, which occurred in 1821. So you started having white people move to this part of Georgia. And eventually, Creeks moved out, and that area where Standing Peachtree is became a fort. It was a since it was on a bluff, it was a very strategic point, and it became a fort at one point, and it had different names. One time it was called Fort Peachtree, and then eventually, white people totally moved into that area, and the fort wasn't needed anymore because people lived both above there and below there. It was already a point of strength. But the area's always been there. That is the original permanent settlement in Atlanta. Now let's talk a little bit about the name itself. So we call it today Standing Peachtree, but that would assume probably that there were peach trees there, and we are the peach state. Georgia is known as the peach state. It's one of our mottos. But there weren't peach trees there in that area. Georgia is top 5 in the country for boardfoot production, mostly in pine trees. And we've always had a lot of pine trees here in Georgia. If you didn't know, as probably a lot of people don't know, Atlanta has the largest tree canopy of any major city in America. I've flown around the world, and when I come home, you come into Hartsfield and you just see green everywhere. You see treetops everywhere, and you don't see that in that many cities. Most trees in Atlanta are pine trees. We do have a lot of hardwood trees too in certain parts of the city, but Atlanta's full of pine trees. And very likely, the area called Standing Peachtree, that we call Standing Peachtree, was amalgamated. It probably was actually Pitchtree. It was probably Standing Pitchtree. And Creeks and Cherokees and other Indians did this for light, for ceremonies, for different reasons. They would carve out the inside of pine trees, and they would light the resin, the sap inside pine trees, and they would light those up. And they did this for a lot of different ceremonies, and they did this for different reasons, and that's very likely what happened there. So the word turned from pitch tree to peach tree. Now, there was a road for a long time from the Hog Mountain area in very sort of northern Gwinnett County, which would be northeast of what Atlanta is today. There was a road from there that went all the way down to where Standing Peachtree was, and it was called the Peachtree Trail. Not the Pitchtree Trail, the Peachtree Trail. And today, Atlanta has 73 streets that have Peachtree in them. Peachtree Street, Peachtree Road, Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, Peachtree Battle, Peachtree Way, West Peachtree, Peachtree Place. I mean, it goes on and on. There's tons of them. Old Peachtree Road. And these are throughout town. But in fact, Atlanta's not known for peach trees. In fact, the South really wasn't known for peach trees. Obviously, before the Civil War, Atlanta was most of the South was known for cotton production because it was a good climate to grow cotton in. And when cotton prices started plummeting after the Civil War, Georgia was looking for other crops to grow, and they grew peanuts in South Georgia and soybeans. They also, down near Macon, grew peach trees. So for a long time, Georgia, it became known as the Peach State, and we also were leading the nation for a long time in peach production. Today we're 4th. California has that huge valley where they grow all kind of stuff. So California's number 1. South Carolina's number 2. South Carolina has a ton of peach orchards. Ironically, New Jersey's 3, and then Georgia's 4. So we're known as the Peach State. We have a bunch of peach tree streets. This place, our original settlement, is called Standing Peachtree. It was probably Standing Pitchtree instead. So the area is right there in West Buckhead today. It is a park. There's a park there that City of Atlanta runs. It's called Standing Peachtree Park. When you drive down in it, it's mostly asphalt. You see this little pavilion to your right where you could have a barbecue and get out from under the rain. And there's a little grill there. As you go on down that road, there is a razor wire fence and a regular chain link fence with a gate that goes to the Atlanta Waterworks area. What I heard is that before the Olympics, it was open. You could actually drive back there. There's a little simulated fort from when there was a fort there that's been really vandalized. And then there are 3 historic markers, Georgia historical markers there, that obviously you can't read from the gate. I've been working with the city of Atlanta and now the Georgia Historical Society, which has been put in charge of controlling those markers, both restoring them, putting them up around the state, and maintaining them. And a lady named Elise Butler has been very helpful in trying to get these moved. She can't do it herself. It has to be done by the city of Atlanta. This year they've used the pandemic as sort of an excuse to not do it. But hopefully they can be moved soon enough so people can see them. They basically outline exactly what I've told you. This was an original settlement. There were forts here after that. But this place where this creek meets the Chattahoochee River is the original settlement of Atlanta. So it's a historic place. Hopefully those historical markers can be moved in the next 6 months or so. It'd be great for kids to be able to come down here and actually see that. Hey, this is what life was like back then. Yes, we didn't have roads. We had roads, but we didn't have cars back then. But this was the time before railroads. There weren't even railroads. So people used rivers as ways to get around. And Native Americans definitely did, and the Americans who came after them did as well. And that's why this strategic area was so important. So it's cool. It's about 5 miles from my house. I live in sort of the northwest part of Atlanta, right inside Cobb County, and so it's not far away from me. It's off Moores Mill and Ridgewood Road. If you know where that area is, that if you take that road and go past Standing Peachtree Park, you're basically going back towards West Paces Ferry and going back towards that part of Buckhead. But it's right there at the river, so there's a lot of nice homes over there, and it's a nice area. And it's a park that most people would not notice. Again, it doesn't have a lot of greenery. It's not like you could go there and really have a normal type experience at a park. You're not going out there and flying a kite or throwing frisbee or whatever. It's mostly asphalt. But it would be cool to be able to see and read these historical markers to understand how significant this place was in Georgia history. So, cool area. And if you ever want to go see this place, which I would suggest, and again, we're going to continue to update the on our site, on our sites, on our social media sites, when and if the historical markers get moved. But there's a couple places to eat over there if you're in that area too. So obviously Buckhead has a lot of places. If you want to do vegetables or basically a place that's open most of the time, you can go to OK Cafe. That's right there at Northside Parkway and West Paces Ferry Road, and it's been open a long time and is really good food. A place that I like to go that's not far from there at DeForest Ferry and Collier Road is a place called Patrick's. It's an old sub shop. It's been there since the early 70s. Been going there since I was, for probably 25 years, and it's always consistent. You know what you can get at Patrick's, and they're good people, and they've survived and done well during the pandemic, too. So just across the hill, if you're going back towards Howell Mill Road, and you're on Chattahoochee, or Collier Road, which goes down and becomes Chattahoochee. But if it goes to Chattahoochee. But if you're going Collier Road down the hill, on your left, there's De Palma's Italian. A lot of people like De Palma's. It's been there a long time. But right before there is a barbecue place called Das Barbecue, DAS. Guy who runs it is from Texas, and so I don't even know. I've never had pork there, I've had ribs, but their focus is brisket, and they also have sausage links that they get from the Southside Market in Elgin, Texas, which is world famous meat market in Texas. So if you're in that area and you want barbecue, I would suggest Das Barbecue. It's very good. Or Subs, go to Patrick's. Or if you want something more of a sit-down place where you can get, whatever you want, OK Cafe is one of those kind of diners that really is good. And again, all these places are within a couple of miles of Standing Peachtree Park. So enjoy your exploration of Georgia. Don't forget to do your research and check these places out ahead of time and prepare yourselves. Georgia obviously gets a lot of rain, so sometimes when you go to these places and visit, you're going to get caught in rain, so make sure you're prepared for that. But just enjoy your time out in Georgia's wilderness and in a place like this near one of Georgia's cities. And we'll be back with you very soon with another installment of the Georgia History Guy. Take care.